The stars above Harvest 4 were beautiful that night. Sarah Chen stood on her farmhouse porch and watched them twinkle like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Her daughter Emma played in the wheat fields behind the house, her laughter mixing with the sound of wind through the golden crops. Harvest 4 was a peaceful world. 8 million humans called it home. They grew food for Earth and the other colonies. They raised families. They lived simple, happy lives far from the politics and problems of the galaxy. Sarah had no idea that death was coming from those beautiful stars. Far away, in a dark war room on the planet Vortex Prime, Warlord Kethrak studied holographic images of human colonies. The Vortani were a proud warrior race. They stood 8 feet tall with thick scales covering their bodies. Their 4 arms ended in claws sharp enough to cut through metal. They had conquered 32 species across the galaxy. Their empire stretched across 100 worlds, and they were hungry for more. "These humans are weak," said General Thexnor, pointing at the images. "They have no real military. Their colonies are defended by small police forces. They are farmers, builders, nothing more." Kethrak nodded slowly. His yellow eyes studied the peaceful farms and cities of Harvest 4. "The other races in the galaxy ignore humans. They say humans are not worth conquering. The other races are fools," Thexnor replied. "Humans breed fast. They work hard. They will make excellent slaves." Kethrak made his decision. "Send the fleet. Take their colony. Show them the power of the Vortani Dominion." 200 Vortani warships jumped through hyperspace toward Harvest 4. They arrived in the middle of the night, local time. Their massive shadows blocked out the stars that Sarah Chen had been admiring just hours before. The attack came without warning. Plasma fire rained down from the sky like burning rain. The capital city of New Amsterdam was hit first. Buildings exploded, streets melted. People ran screaming as Vortani drop ships landed in the chaos. Sarah grabbed Emma and ran for the emergency shelter beneath their farmhouse. She could hear explosions in the distance. The ground shook beneath her feet. Emma was crying, asking what was happening. Sarah had no answers. The colonial militia fought back with everything they had. Men and women in light armor faced Vortani warriors twice their size. They used rifles and grenades against plasma cannons and energy shields. They knew they could not win. They fought anyway. Police Chief Marcus Webb led the defense of New Amsterdam. He was 50 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. He had never expected to fight a war, but when the Vortani came, he picked up a rifle and stood with his officers. "Hold the line," he shouted as his people fell around him. "Give the civilians time to evacuate." There was nowhere to evacuate to. The Vortani had surrounded the city, but Webb's officers kept fighting. They kept dying, and they kept the aliens busy while thousands of civilians hid in shelters and basements. The battle lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of fire and blood and screaming. 6 hours of ordinary people doing extraordinary things against impossible odds. When it was over, 3 million humans were dead. 5 million more were captured. The beautiful wheat fields burned. The cities lay in ruins. Warlord Kethrak landed on the planet's surface to claim his victory. He walked through the burning streets of New Amsterdam and smiled. Human bodies lay everywhere. Some had died fighting. Others had died running. It did not matter to him. He found Marcus Webb still alive, trapped under a fallen wall. The old police chief looked up at the alien warlord with no fear in his eyes, only hatred. "You have lost," Kethrak said. "Your people will serve the Dominion now." Webb laughed. It was a strange sound in the middle of so much death. "You have no idea what you just did," he said. "You just made the worst mistake of your life." Kethrak crushed him under his foot without another thought. The warlord then sent a message to Earth. His face appeared on every screen on the human homeworld. 8 billion people saw his yellow eyes and heard his cold voice. "Humans of Earth," he said. "I am Warlord Kethrak of the Vortani Dominion. We have taken your colony called Harvest 4. Millions of your kind are now our prisoners. You will submit to our rule. You will serve us as slaves. If you refuse, we will burn every one of your colonies, one by one. You have 10 of your Earth days to answer." The message ended. Earth was silent. In the great council chamber beneath the mountains of Switzerland, the United Earth Council gathered for an emergency meeting. Representatives from every nation and colony sat in a vast, circular room. Their faces showed shock, grief, and anger. Several alien ambassadors who lived on Earth were also present. They watched with pity in their eyes. The Kythrine ambassador, an ancient being who had seen many civilizations fall, slowly stood to leave. "Where are you going?" asked Council President Elena Vasquez. "To evacuate," the ambassador replied. "The Vortani will come for Earth next. Your species has no chance against them." "I am sorry." Other alien ambassadors nodded and began to leave as well. They had seen this before. A young species attacked by a stronger one. It always ended the same way. President Vasquez watched them go. Then she turned to her fellow humans. The room was quiet. Many representatives had tears on their faces. They had all lost friends and family on Harvest 4. "What do we do?" asked the representative from Mars Colony. "We cannot fight them. Our public defense force has maybe 50 ships. The Vortani have thousands. We could surrender," said another voice. "Save what lives we can." President Vasquez stood slowly. She was 60 years old with silver hair and steel in her eyes. She had been a soldier once, long ago. She had hoped to never see war again. "No," she said. Her voice was soft, but it filled the room. "We will not surrender." "But how can we fight?" someone asked. "We have nothing." Vasquez looked around the room. She made eye contact with the 12 other people who knew the truth. The secret that had been kept for 200 years. The secret that even their alien friends did not know. "We have something," she said. "Something we built long ago, hoping we would never need it. Something we hid from the galaxy because we feared what it meant about us." She took a deep breath. The weight of what she was about to do pressed down on her shoulders. "Send the signal," she said. "Wake the Titans, deep beneath the earth, in bunkers that had been sealed for 2 centuries. Ancient machines began to power on. Red lights turned green. Computer screens flickered to life. Frozen systems began to warm, in thousands of cryogenic pods. Human hearts began to beat faster. Eyes moved behind frozen eyelids. Enhanced muscles twitched with remembered strength. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, something massive began to move. Rocks that were not really rocks shifted position. Hidden doors opened in the darkness of space. Ships that had waited in silence for 200 years began to wake. On 100 moons and in 1,000 hidden facilities, humanity's true power stirred from its long sleep. The Vortani had wanted to conquer farmers and builders. They had awakened giants instead, and the giants were angry. 200 years ago, humanity almost destroyed itself. The Third World War was the worst conflict in human history. Nations burned, cities turned to ash, billions died. In the darkest days, when extinction seemed certain, the survivors made a choice. They would never be weak again. They would never be vulnerable again. They created the Titan Protocol. On the surface, humanity rebuilt. They became farmers and builders, scientists and artists. They spread to other worlds and showed the galaxy a peaceful face. They made friends with alien species. They traded goods and shared knowledge. They seemed harmless, but beneath the surface, humanity prepared for war. Admiral Helena Vasquez had been retired for 5 years. She was 72 years old now, living in a small house on the coast of Portugal. She spent her days fishing and reading books. She had almost forgotten what she truly was. Then the call came. A black car arrived at her door. 2 soldiers in unmarked uniforms stepped out. They said only 3 words. Titan Protocol activated. Helena felt her old bones ache as she stood. She looked at her fishing rod, her books, her peaceful life. Then she left it all behind and got in the car. The journey took her deep into the Himalayan mountains, past security checkpoints that did not officially exist, through tunnels carved into ancient rock. Finally, she arrived at Command Center Omega, the heart of humanity's secret military. The center was massive. Hundreds of officers worked at holographic displays. Screens showed images of human colonies, Vortani fleet movements, and military assets that the galaxy had never seen. General James Morrison greeted her at the door. He was younger than Helena, but his eyes looked tired and old. "Admiral Vasquez," he said. "Thank you for coming." "Did I have a choice?" she asked. "No," he admitted. "You're one of 12 people alive who knows everything about the protocol. We need you." Helena walked to the main display. She saw the size of the Vortani fleet, 2,000 warships, with more being built. Enough firepower to destroy 100 worlds. "Show me what we have," she said. Morrison smiled for the first time. With pleasure, the display changed. Helena watched as hidden bases across the solar system revealed themselves. In the asteroid belt, ships emerged from hollowed-out rocks. Around Jupiter's moons, massive stations powered on. On Mars, underground factories began producing weapons. The numbers appeared on screen. 8,000 warships, 300 orbital defense platforms, 50 world killer weapons capable of destroying planets. My God, Helena whispered. We actually built all of it. Every generation added more, Morrison said. Just in case. And the sleepers? Morrison's face grew serious. The revival process has begun. 500,000 will be ready within the week. The sleepers were humanity's darkest secret. During World War III, when defeat seemed certain, scientists created enhanced soldiers. They modified human DNA, made bones stronger than steel, gave muscles 10 times normal strength. They created perfect warriors with perfect reflexes and perfect memories. These super soldiers won the war. They saved humanity from extinction. But when peace came, no one knew what to do with them. They were too dangerous for normal society, too powerful to be allowed to walk free. So they volunteered to sleep. They entered cryogenic pods and waited for the day when humanity would need them again. That day had come. In a facility beneath the Nevada desert, Colonel Marcus Kane opened his eyes for the first time in 180 years. The cold hit him first, then the memories. War, blood, victory. He remembered everything with perfect clarity. The battles he had fought, the enemies he had killed, the friends he had lost. A doctor stood beside his pod. She was young, maybe 30 years old. She looked at him with a mix of fear and wonder. Colonel Kane, she said, welcome back. Marcus tried to speak, but his throat was dry. The doctor gave him water. He drank it slowly, feeling his enhanced body wake up. What year is it? He asked. 2347. You have been asleep for 180 years. Marcus sat up. His muscles felt stiff but strong. He looked at his hands, the same hands that had killed hundreds of enemies in the last war. They were weapons, just like the rest of him. Why did you wake me? The doctor explained about the Vortani, about Harvest 4, about the millions of humans killed and captured. Marcus listened in silence. When she finished, he stood up. He was 6 feet 5 inches tall, with shoulders like a bull and eyes like ice. Show me to the armory, he said. I have work to do. Across the solar system, other sleepers were waking. Men and women who had been legends in the last war. Soldiers who had done impossible things against impossible odds. They emerged from their pods angry and ready. Meanwhile, Warlord Kethrak enjoyed his victory on Harvest 4. He had set up his command post in the ruins of New Amsterdam. Human prisoners were being loaded onto transport ships to be taken back to Vortani space as slaves. He was proud of what he had accomplished. This was the beginning of a new age for the Dominion. Soon all human worlds would fall. Soon another species would serve the Vortani. A soldier brought him a human prisoner. She was young, maybe 20 years old. Her face was dirty and her clothes were torn. But she was not crying. She was smiling. Why do you smile? Kethrak demanded. Your world has fallen. Your people are slaves. The girl looked at him with no fear. You made a mistake, she said. A big mistake. What mistake? You attacked our families. You killed our children. She laughed softly. You have no idea what is coming for you. Kethrak struck her across the face. She fell to the ground but continued laughing. Kill her, he ordered. A soldier raised his weapon. But before he could fire, a dying old man nearby spoke. She's right, you know. It was a farmer, shot through the chest but still breathing. We were the peaceful ones, the nice ones. But we are not all there is. There are others, old ones, dangerous ones. They have been sleeping for a long time. The farmer coughed blood and smiled. But they're waking up now. And when they come, God help you all. He died with that smile still on his face. Kethrak felt something strange in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it because he had not felt it in many years. It was fear. He shook it off. These humans were trying to scare him with stories. There was no hidden army. There was no secret weapon. They were farmers, builders, nothing more. But that night, for the first time in his long career, Kethrak could not sleep. Back on Earth, Admiral Vasquez stood before the council. Behind her, screens showed the true size of humanity's military power. We have been hiding this for 200 years, she said. We showed the galaxy farmers because we were afraid of what we truly are. We are not just builders. We are survivors. And when something threatens our survival, we become something else entirely. The screens showed the sleepers waking. 500,000 super soldiers, the most dangerous beings humanity had ever created. The Vortani wanted to conquer easy prey, Vasquez continued. They chose the wrong species. She turned to face the council directly. Her eyes burned with cold fire. Send a message to Warlord Kethrak. Tell him we reject his offer of surrender. Tell him we are coming to take back our people. And tell him this. She paused, letting the silence fill the room. Tell him to pray to whatever gods his species believes in, because nothing else is going to save him from what happens next. The message was sent. The galaxy held its breath, and across human space, the sleeping giants began to march toward war. News traveled fast across the galaxy. Every species with a communication network heard the story. The humans had a secret military. The peaceful farmers had been hiding warships. The gentle builders had created super soldiers. No one believed it at first. The Kai-3 observers were the oldest species in known space. They had watched civilizations rise and fall for 1,000,000 years. They recorded everything and judged nothing. When they heard about humanity's secret, they called an emergency session for the first time in 10,000 years. The High Observer, a being so old that even other Kai-3 did not know his age, spoke to the assembled council. We watched the humans for 3 centuries. He said, we saw farmers, scientists, artists. We saw a species that seemed to want only peace. He paused and looked at his fellow observers. We were fooled. The humans were never prey. They were wolves pretending to be sheep, and now the wolves are hungry. The Vortani did not believe the stories either. Warlord Kethrak laughed when he heard about humanity's hidden fleet. Propaganda, he said to his generals. They are trying to scare us with lies. They have no real military power. He was wrong. The first attack came at a Vortani supply depot in the Korak system. 300 Vortani warships guarded the station. It held enough fuel and weapons to supply the invasion of 10 more human colonies. 50 human ships appeared out of hyperspace. They were smaller than Vortani vessels. They looked almost fragile in comparison. The Vortani commander was amused. 50 ships against 300? These humans are fools. Destroy them. The Vortani fleet opened fire. Plasma beams and missiles raced toward the human ships. None of them hit. The human ships moved like nothing the Vortani had ever seen. They twisted and turned, dodging every attack with impossible precision. Then they fired back. Human weapons did not use plasma. They used something else. Thin beams of pure white light that cut through Vortani shields like they were not there. Each beam hit exactly where it would cause the most damage. The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, all 300 Vortani ships were destroyed. The 50 human ships had not taken a single hit. News of the defeat reached Kethrak within hours. He watched the battle recordings in silence. His generals watched with him. No one spoke. Finally, one general broke the silence. How is this possible? Our shields should have stopped their weapons. Kethrak did not answer. He was watching the human ships move. They were too fast, too precise. No pilot could fly like that. Their ships are controlled by thinking machines, another general said. They must be. No living creature could react so quickly. But they were wrong. The ships were piloted by humans. Enhanced humans who had trained for decades before their long sleep. Humans whose brains processed information faster than any computer. Humans who had been built for war. The news got worse for the Vortani. On Harvest 4, a liberation force had arrived. 10,000 giants landed near New Amsterdam in the middle of the night. They wore black armor that absorbed light. They carried weapons that made no sound. They moved through the darkness like ghosts. Colonel Marcus Kane led the assault personally. He had been the deadliest soldier in World War III. 2 centuries of sleep had not dulled his skills. If anything, he was eager to use them again. The Vortani garrison numbered 100,000. They were elite warriors, the best the Dominion had to offer. Each one was 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor. Each one had killed dozens of enemies in battle. None of that mattered. The giants hit the Vortani lines at midnight. They did not announce their attack. They did not give warnings. They simply appeared out of the darkness and started killing. Marcus Kane moved through the enemy like a force of nature. His enhanced eyes could see in total darkness. His enhanced ears could hear heartbeats from 50 meters away. His enhanced muscles let him run faster and hit harder than any normal human. A Vortani soldier tried to grab him. Marcus broke both of his arms, then crushed his throat with a single punch. Another soldier shot at him. Marcus dodged the plasma bolt and threw a knife that went straight through the alien's eye. All around him, other giants were doing the same. They worked in teams, covering each other, communicating through hand signals and silent radio. They killed with terrible efficiency. General Thexnor commanded the Vortani defense. He watched his soldiers die on the security screens and could not understand what he was seeing. "What are these things?" he demanded. "They cannot be human." They were human. They were just a kind of human that the galaxy had never seen before. By dawn, half the Vortani garrison was dead. The survivors retreated to the central fortress, a massive building that had once been a human hospital. They barricaded the doors and prepared for a final stand. Marcus Kane stood outside the fortress. His black armor was covered in Vortani blood. His face showed no emotion. He raised a radio to his mouth. "General Thexnor, this is Colonel Marcus Kane of the United Earth Military. You have 10 minutes to surrender. If you do not, we will kill everyone inside that building." Thexnor's voice came back, filled with rage. "Vortani do not surrender. We will fight to the last soldier." "That can be arranged," Marcus said. He gave the order. The giants attacked. What followed was not a battle. It was a massacre. The giants breached the fortress walls in 6 places at once. They fought through the corridors, room by room, level by level. They showed no mercy because none had been shown to the humans of Harvest 4. Marcus found General Thexnor in the command center. The Vortani general was huge, even by his species standards. He drew his ceremonial blade and charged. Marcus did not bother drawing a weapon. He caught Thexnor's blade hand and squeezed. Bones cracked. The blade fell. Then Marcus grabbed the general by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "Your warlord started this war," Marcus said quietly. "We are going to finish it." He snapped Thexnor's spine with a single twist and dropped the body. The battle for Harvest 4 was over. 5 million human survivors were freed from the prison camps. They emerged into the sunlight and saw their liberators, these strange, terrible soldiers in black armor. A little girl approached Marcus Kane. She was maybe 8 years old, thin from starvation but still alive. She looked up at him with wide eyes. "Are you an angel?" she asked. Marcus looked down at her. He thought about what he was. A weapon, a killer, a monster created by desperate scientists 2 centuries ago. "No," he said. "I'm something else." The girl took his hand. It was covered in blood, but she did not seem to care. "Thank you for saving us," she said. Marcus felt something crack in his frozen heart. He knelt down and looked at the girl. "What's your name?" "Emma. Emma Chen." He remembered why they had been created. Not just to win wars. To protect people like this girl. "You're safe now, Emma," he said. "I promise." Across the galaxy, humanity broadcast footage of the battle. Every species with a screen saw the giants in action. They saw Vortani warriors fall like wheat before a scythe. They saw the liberation of Harvest 4. And they saw the message that Admiral Vasquez sent to Warlord Kethrak. "We have taken back our colony. We have freed our people. And we are not done. Surrender now, and we will show mercy. Continue this war, and we will show you what humanity is truly capable of." Kethrak watched the message alone in his chamber. He saw his best soldiers die like insects. He saw the human giants move through his army like ghosts of death. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be prey, and the human fleet was coming for him. The full might of humanity moved toward Vortani space like a wave of steel and fire. 8,000 warships emerged from their hiding places across the solar system. Some had waited in the asteroid belt for 2 centuries. Others had been hidden on distant moons or inside hollowed mountains on Mars. Now they flew together in formations that blocked out the stars. Admiral Helena Vasquez commanded the fleet from the bridge of the Prometheus, the largest ship humanity had ever built. It was 3 kilometers long, carrying enough firepower to destroy a planet. But it was not the weapons that made the Prometheus dangerous. It was the woman giving the orders. "All ships report ready," her communications officer said. "We are prepared to jump." Helena looked at the holographic display. It showed the path they would take through hyperspace. 5 jumps to reach Vortani territory, 3 more to reach the Corvin Nebula. where Vortani forces were gathering for a final defense. "Begin the jump," she ordered. 8,000 ships vanished into hyperspace. Back on Earth, something remarkable was happening. The civilian population had mobilized for war. Factories that once made farming equipment now produced weapons and ammunition. Schools became training centers. Hospitals prepared for casualties. Everyone did their part. 2 million ordinary humans volunteered for military service. They were not giants. They were not enhanced. They were farmers and teachers, builders and artists. But they were angry, and they wanted to fight. The military trained them as fast as possible. Many would serve as support troops, handling logistics and supplies. Others would crew the warships. A few, the bravest or most foolish, volunteered for ground combat. President Elena Vasquez spoke to the people in a broadcast that reached every human world. "We did not want this war," she said. "For 200 years we hid our true strength because we hoped we would never need it. We wanted peace. We wanted to build, not destroy." Her voice grew harder. "But the Vortani killed our children. They enslaved our families. They thought we were weak because we chose to be gentle. They were wrong." She paused, letting the silence speak. "We will show them what happens when they threaten humanity. We will show the entire galaxy. And when this is over, no one will ever make this mistake again." The Vortani Dominion was in chaos. Reports of defeat came daily. Human ships appeared without warning and destroyed supply lines. Human soldiers liberated prisoner camps. The war that was supposed to be easy was becoming a disaster. Warlord Kethrak gathered his remaining forces at the Corvan Nebula. 2,000 warships, the largest fleet the Dominion had ever assembled. It was everything they had left. His generals were afraid. He could see it in their eyes, smell it on their scales. The videos of the giants had spread through the Dominion. Soldiers whispered about invincible human warriors who could not be killed. "They are not gods," Kethrak told his council. "They are flesh and blood. They can die like anything else." "Can they?" asked General Vorax, one of his oldest advisors. "Our best warriors fell before them like insects. Our weapons do nothing against their ships. Perhaps we should consider surrender." Kethrak moved so fast that no one saw his hand reach for his sword. Vorax's head hit the floor before his body did. "Does anyone else want to discuss surrender?" Kethrak asked. No one did. The human fleet arrived at the Corvan Nebula at dawn, Vortani time. 8,000 ships against 2,000. But the Vortani had the nebula itself as protection. The clouds of gas and dust would make navigation difficult. It should have been enough to even the odds. It was not. Admiral Vasquez studied the enemy formation. The Vortani had arranged their ships in a defensive sphere, protecting their command vessels in the center. It was a good strategy against normal opponents. "They're expecting us to surround them," she said. "Split our forces, pick them apart from multiple angles." Her tactical officer nodded. "That's what most fleets would do." Helena smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We're not most fleets. All ships, attack formation hammer. We're going straight through the middle." The human fleet arranged itself into a massive wedge. 8,000 ships, with the Prometheus at the point. They did not try to surround the enemy. They did not spread out. They simply charged. The Vortani opened fire with everything they had. Thousands of plasma beams and missiles raced toward the human fleet. The space between the two forces became a wall of fire. Human ships began to die. Smaller vessels took hits, meant for larger ones. Crews sacrificed themselves to protect their comrades, but the fleet kept coming, punching through the Vortani fire like a fist through paper. When the fleets finally met, the human ships did not slow down. They crashed through the Vortani formation, firing in all directions. Their precision weapons cut through enemy shields. Their enhanced pilots flew circles around Vortani commanders. The battle lasted 18 hours. 18 hours of fire and death and screaming metal. When it was over, the Vortani fleet existed only as scattered wreckage floating in the nebula's clouds. Humanity had lost 1,000 ships, 20,000 dead. It was a heavy price, but the road to Vortani Prime was now open. Kethrak returned to his homeworld to prepare a final defense. He ordered every civilian capable of holding a weapon to join the military. He activated ancient defense systems that had not been used in generations. He fortified every city and prepared for a siege. "They will pay for every meter of ground with blood," he declared. "Vortani Prime will never fall." He was wrong. The human fleet arrived in orbit 3 days later. 1 million giants loaded into dropships. Another 1,000,000 regular soldiers waited behind them. This would be the largest ground invasion in galactic history. Colonel Marcus Kane led the first wave. He stood in the dropship bay, surrounded by his fellow giants. They were silent, their faces hard, their eyes cold. They had been created for moments like this. "Remember why we fight," Marcus said. "Remember Harvest 4. Remember the children who died. Remember the families who were enslaved." He loaded his rifle. Around him, 1,000 other giants did the same. "No mercy," he said. "No retreat. No surrender." The dropships launched. The landing was brutal. Vortani anti-aircraft fire filled the sky. Dropships exploded in midair. But enough got through. Giants hit the ground running, their weapons already firing. The fighting in the cities was the worst. Every building was a fortress. Every street was a death trap. Vortani soldiers fought with desperate courage, knowing they were defending their home. But the giants were unstoppable. They breached walls with their bare hands. They dodged plasma fire that should have been too fast to see. They killed with guns and knives and fists, moving through the enemy like hurricanes through grass. Marcus Kane led the assault on the Imperial Palace. It was a massive structure of black stone, built to withstand orbital bombardment. 10,000 Vortani elite guards defended it. It took the giants 2 hours to break through. Marcus found Kethrak in the throne room. The warlord stood alone among the bodies of his final guards. He held a ceremonial blade in each of his 4 hands. "Human," Kethrak said. "Have you come to kill me?" Marcus stopped 10 meters away. "That depends on you. I will not surrender." "I know." They looked at each other. Conqueror and liberator, predator and prey. The roles had reversed completely. Kethrak attacked first. He was fast, faster than any human should have been able to handle. His 4 blades moved in deadly patterns, designed to overwhelm any single opponent. Marcus did not try to block. He simply moved. Enhanced reflexes and combat programming let him slide between the blades, reading Kethrak's movements before they happened. The first cut opened the warlord's left arm. The second disabled his right. The third and fourth brought him to his knees. Marcus did not kill him quickly. He broke the warlord's limbs one by one, making sure the alien felt every moment of pain. "This is for Harvest 4, Marcus said, breaking Kethrak's leg. "This is for the children you murdered." Another break. "This is for the families you enslaved." When it was over, Kethrak lay on the floor of his own throne room, broken and bleeding. Marcus dragged him before the cameras that broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. Admiral Vasquez appeared on screen next to him. Her face was tired, but triumphant. "The war is over," she announced. "The Vortani Dominion has fallen. Let every species in this galaxy remember this day. Remember what happens when you threaten humanity's children." She looked directly into the camera. Her eyes burned with cold fire. "We do not forget. We do not forgive. And we do not lose." The galaxy watched in silence, and no one doubted humanity ever again. The war had lasted only 3 months. In that short time, everything had changed. The Vortani Dominion collapsed within weeks of Kethrak's defeat. The 32 species they had conquered over centuries saw their chance and took it. Rebellions broke out on every occupied world. Vortani garrisons were overwhelmed by former slaves who had learned that their masters could bleed and die. By the end of the year, the Dominion was nothing but a memory. Warlord Kethrak was put on trial for crimes against humanity and other species. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Witnesses from a dozen worlds came to speak about Vortani cruelty. When it was over, Kethrak was found guilty of genocide, enslavement, and countless other crimes. He was executed publicly on the anniversary of the Harvest IV attack. Billions watched across the galaxy. When the end came, Kethrak showed no fear. He had that much courage, at least. But courage could not save him from justice. The human dead were mourned on every world. 17 million civilians had died in the Vortani attacks. Another 200,000 soldiers had fallen in the war. Memorial walls were built on Earth, Mars, and every colony. Their names carved in stone so they would never be forgotten. Sarah Chen was one of the survivors of Harvest 4. She had hidden in her shelter with her daughter Emma while the attack raged above them. When the giants came to liberate the colony, she had wept with relief. Now she stood at the memorial wall in New Amsterdam, looking for familiar names. She found too many. Friends, neighbors, people she had known all her life. "Mama," Emma said, tugging her hand. Look. Sarah turned and saw a group of giants walking through the rebuilt city. They wore civilian clothes now, but there was no hiding what they were. They moved with too much grace, stood with too much stillness. Normal humans did not look like that. One of the giants saw Emma and stopped. Sarah recognized him. Colonel Marcus Kane, the one who had led the liberation of Harvest 4, the one who had held her daughter's hand in the ruins of New Amsterdam. He walked over and knelt down to Emma's level. "Hello again," he said. Emma smiled. "I remember you. You saved us." "Yes." Marcus looked at Sarah. "How are you doing?" Sarah did not know how to answer. Her world had been destroyed and rebuilt. Her neighbors had been murdered. Her sense of safety had been shattered forever. "We're alive," she finally said. "Thanks to people like you." Marcus nodded slowly. He seemed troubled by something. "I want to apologize," he said. "For what? We should have protected you better. We had the power to stop the Vortani before they ever reached this world. But we chose to hide. We chose to keep our strength secret." Sarah thought about that. She thought about the years of peace before the attack. The quiet life she had lived, raising her daughter among the wheat fields. Would it have been different? She asked. If the galaxy knew what we were, would the Vortani have left us alone? Maybe. Probably. Marcus shrugged. Or maybe someone else would have attacked us first, afraid of what we might become. I don't know. Then don't apologize, Sarah said. You gave us years of peace. And when peace ended, you gave us justice. That's more than anyone could ask for. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was a small, sad smile. But it was real. Thank you, he said. Across the galaxy, the balance of power had shifted completely. Species that had once ignored humanity now sent ambassadors to Earth. They came with gifts and offers of alliance. They came to learn about this strange species that had hidden its true nature for so long. The Kythrine observers sent their High Observer to speak with President Vasquez. It was the first time they had sought an audience with any species in 10,000 years. The meeting took place in the rebuilt council chamber on Earth. The High Observer was ancient beyond measure, his body more machine than flesh after millennia of life. He moved slowly, as if every step was carefully considered. We watched your species for 300 years, he said. We thought we understood you. We were wrong. President Vasquez nodded. Many species made that mistake, but we should not have. The observer's mechanical eyes focused on her. We have seen thousands of species rise and fall. We have seen warriors and builders, conquerors and creators, but we have never seen a species that could be both. He paused, searching for words. Your kind can build beautiful things. Art, music, literature. You can create peace and share knowledge freely. But when threatened, you become something else entirely. You become... He struggled with the concept. You become monsters, willing to do terrible things to protect what you love. Yes, Vasquez said simply. We are both. That is what makes us human. How? The observer asked. How do you contain such contradictions within a single species? Vasquez thought about the question. She thought about the giants, soldiers created for war who now struggled to find peace. She thought about the millions of civilians who had volunteered to fight. She thought about the memorial walls covered with names of the dead. We are not ashamed of our capacity for violence, she said, but we are not controlled by it either. We choose when to fight and when to build. We choose when to show mercy and when to show strength. She met the observer's eyes. That choice is what makes us human. Not our weapons, not our warriors. The choice. Admiral Helena Vasquez retired for the second time after the war. She went back to her house in Portugal, to her fishing rod and her books. But she did not find the same peace she had known before. She had sent thousands of young humans to their deaths. She had given orders that killed millions of Vortani. The weight of those decisions pressed on her every day. General Morrison visited her 1 year after the war ended. He found her sitting on her porch, watching the sunset over the ocean. The council needs you again, he said. We're establishing the new defense network. They want your input. Helena shook her head. Find someone younger. My war is over. Is it? Morrison sat down beside her. The Titans are still active. The giants are still awake. Someone needs to make sure we don't become the thing we destroyed. Helena thought about Kethrak. About the Vortani who had conquered 32 species and seen nothing wrong with slavery and murder. About how easy it would be for humanity to follow the same path. "What do you need?" she asked. "Just your wisdom. Help us write the rules that will govern our military power. Help us make sure we use it to protect, not to conquer." Helena looked at the sunset. Orange and red painted the sky, beautiful and fleeting. "There was a moment," she said softly, "when we could have destroyed Vortani Prime entirely, killed every living thing on that planet. I considered it. Why didn't you? Because that's not who we want to be." She turned to look at Morrison. "We have the power to be the worst monsters in the galaxy. The Titan Protocol gives us that power, but we also have the power to choose something different." She stood up slowly, her old bones protesting. "I'll help you," she said. "But the rules have to be clear. We defend. We protect. We never conquer. The moment we become aggressors, we lose everything that makes us worth protecting." Colonel Marcus Kane and the surviving giants faced their own choice. They could return to cryogenic sleep and wait for the next war, or they could try to live as normal humans in a galaxy that now feared and respected them. Many chose sleep. The transition to civilian life was too hard. They had been built for war, and peace felt wrong to them. But Marcus chose to stay awake. He became a teacher at the military academy, training the next generation of human soldiers. He taught them strategy and tactics, combat and survival. But he also taught them something more important. "Our strength is not what makes us special," he told his students. "Any species can build weapons. Any species can create soldiers. What makes humanity special is that we know when not to use them." He showed them images of Harvest 4, the burning fields, the dead civilians, the little girl named Emma Chen who had taken his bloody hand and called him an angel. "We fight to protect people like her," he said. "Not for glory, not for conquest, for protection. The moment we forget that, we become no better than the Vortani." 10 years after the war, Emma Chen was 18 years old. She had grown up on a rebuilt Harvest IV, surrounded by memorials to the dead and stories of liberation. She had decided to join the military. Her first day at the academy, she found herself in Colonel Kane's class. He was older now, with gray in his hair, but he still moved like a predator. His eyes were still cold, but when he saw her, something softened in his face. "Emma Chen," he said. "I remember you." "I remember you too, sir." She stood at attention. "You saved my life. I did my job." He walked closer. "Why are you here?" "Because someone has to protect the next Harvest 4. Someone has to make sure what happened to my world never happens again." Marcus studied her for a long moment. He saw the determination in her eyes, the same fire that burned in every human who had survived the war. "Good answer," he said. "Welcome to the Giants." On a distant space station, the Kythrine observers updated their records on humanity. The file that had once described farmers and builders now told a different story. Species classification: human. Status: dominant galactic power. Military capability: extreme. Threat assessment: do not provoke. The High Observer added a final note. Written in his own hand, "They call them giants because of their enhanced soldiers. But that is not what makes them giants. What makes them giants is their capacity to be both terrible and kind, to fight without mercy, and then offer peace without conditions. They are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Not because of their weapons, but because of their hearts. They love their children more than they hate their enemies. And that love makes them unstoppable." He paused, then added one last line. "Do not threaten what they love. Do not harm what they protect. For if you wake the sleeping giants, they will never stop coming." The entry was sealed and archived, and across the galaxy, humanity continued to build, to create, and to protect. The sleeping giants had awakened. They had shown the galaxy what they could become when threatened. Now they would show the galaxy something better. They would show them what humanity could build when it was finally, truly at peace. And that, in the end, was the greatest victory of all.